Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristin Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello, and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. Today is kind of an exciting episode, something a little bit different. We're going to be bringing you a collection of interviews from the Raise conference in Nashville. We had a great time partnering with OneCause Raise Nation podcast to talk to industry partners and thought leaders on how we can all work together to support the nonprofit sector. We're excited to bring you some of those conversations today.
First up, we have Cherian and Koshy of Kindsight talking with us about the future of fundraising.
Cherian and Koshy of Kindsight, welcome to the studio. You and I got to have fun on a panel yesterday here at the Raise conference talking about future trends in fundraising. One of the things we chatted about yesterday were DAFs. Can you talk to us just big picture for our listeners, getting a quick snapshot? What is the opportunity right now around donor advised funds?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. Thank you both for being here. This is great. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think a lot of people are talking about DAFs right now.
Yeah.
Donor advised funds have been around for quite some time, actually. But right now, I think the studies indicate there's about $250 billion that are being held in donor advised funds right now.
Wow.
So imagine distributing 10% of that, or even if smaller than that, into nonprofits. It has a huge impact on the overall giving that would occur. I think by last total of the Giving Institute is $557 billion. So you can kind of do the math and know that there's a lot of potential that could be impacting nonprofits. And I don't want to create the false dilemma that they're locked up and we need to figure out how to unlock them.
Right.
I don't think that's exactly right. But this is, I think Mitch Stein had a great example or great analogy of donor advised funds, that they're like gift cards. So you know that they're going to give to a nonprofit at some point, and it really is just a question of when and how they want that to redeem that gift card. But they have all of the intention of doing so. I think nonprofits, particularly fundraisers, including myself, when I was dealing with donor advised funds, we just didn't know what we were dealing with. We didn't really understand why donors would give this way. Some of us are fundraising old enough to remember we were only dealing with checks and then like credit cards and crypto and Apple Pay and all the other things, right? So it just seems like a lot, and donor advised funds is another one of those options that seems more complicated than it really is.
Yeah.
I want to ask a follow-up to it, because I think that often, in the nonprofit sector, which leads into the next question as well, shiny is like the thing, right?
Yes.
And so I do hear DAFs resurfacing as a conversation point, and sort of that shiny for particular organizations. In talking to donors around this point, what's the opportunity for connection for them in building that relationship and what that looks like?
That's a great question. I think part of it is realizing that there is philanthropic intention on the part of these donors. That's why they opened a donor advised fund.
Right.
I was once working on a capital campaign for the organization I was working with, and we're talking about all of these creative ways for this person to make a gift to our organization by selling us the land that we needed to develop. And we could do it in some creative ways that would be tax advantageous, and a donor advised fund was one of those options. He was not philanthropic at all. He had no interest in giving at all. So none of the strategies that I was talking about were landing at all.
Right.
And so as you think about the messaging component, it's knowing where the donor is, meeting them where they are with the intention of generosity, but not necessarily the explicit plan for what that looks like.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever read Story Brand by Don Miller, it really is just being the guide, right?
Yeah.
And saying, here's the plan to unleash that generosity. And whether it's a 3-step plan or whatever it might be, it's showing them the path to being who they really truly want to be with themselves and this pot of assets that they can give from.
Well, and the philanthropic intent, I think, is super important. they also sometimes don't have the plan. They actually think the DAF is the plan, right? Based on their sort of investment strategy or planners and people who are telling them like, great, you're at this phase. Now let's introduce the DAF into your plan. And so I think the relationship at the core of that and trying to figure out what their personal mission is with their philanthropy becomes really crucial there, whether it's happening right now or later.
Yes.
I want to shift gears a little bit because I want to make sure we have time to dive into AI.
Okay. Can I just touch on that? Because it's so
Yeah.
smart. And I just want to say, so I have a CAP certification, chartered advisor in philanthropy. And one of the things that we talk about is how to help donors understand their plan.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very responsive to just being able to grab, like someone comes to their door and says, will you give money? Or they respond to an email or something like that. And how do we help them to think about their mission statement, their legacy?
Yeah.
And instead of doing sort of peanut butter philanthropy, where they're getting to a lot of things
great
and spreading
analogy.
it thin, to
Yeah.
kind of think about it from a very intentional perspective about what are the things that really align with their values and their personal or family mission.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so important. Okay, AI.
Yeah.
So I say that,
I've heard
and
of it.
I know it's
You know a thing or two about it.
It's this year it's happening. Again, shiny thing. I think sometimes our nonprofit friends are like, oh my gosh, here's this thing, I have to use it. What is that? What do I do? I don't know. It scares me. There's a lot of information and pieces on it. Where do you see AI actually impacting the nonprofit sector the most?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to recognize that we're all using or beholden to AI in a lot of ways. So if you're doing any sort of digital fundraising, if you have a website, algorithms are at play on social media, algorithms are play at search engine optimization levels. Gary
Netflix
Kasparov,
viewing, our
Netflix is a
shopping.
great example.
Yeah.
Amazon's a great example. But Gary Kasparov lost to IBM, not IBM, but to Blue something in the 90s. And Ken Jennings, my hero, lost to IBM Watson on Jeopardy 20 years ago or something. I mean, it was a long, 10, 15 years ago, but it was a long time ago. So it's impacting everything that we do. And as Sean said on the panel yesterday, it's sort of under the surface. We don't necessarily see it, but it's playing a part in the tools that we use every day. It's now just sort of becoming this extra tool that's on the side that's creating that shiny new object syndrome. And so as we're navigating that space, it's really about looking at it as a new and additional opportunity. I'm not suggesting that you really need to grab onto another new tool. Maybe you do, maybe it would be helpful. But for a lot of organizations, it's about rethinking what is our process? What is the way in which we engage with our stakeholders, whether they're donors or volunteers or community members, in a more relevant way? In a way that reaches them where they are with the stories that they want to hear at the right time. And I think, that panel was a great example too of where Nathan was talking about precision philanthropy. We've been in spray and pray mode for a really long time. And we don't have to be. And I think the business world has learned that they don't have to be, and they're optimizing by using some of these tools. But I don't want anyone to come away from, whether it's the product that I built or just the AI discussion whatsoever, that you have to use AI.
Right.
You need to know that it's out there, but you probably already do. And then look at what your human potential is inside of your organization, and what are the things that don't bring people joy? What are the things that drive people up the wall? For me,
Or out of your organization.
that's right, exactly. And for me, that was responding to the same question over and over again. How can AI do that response? So that, if you're looking at gift acceptance policies or gift entry, how do we enter a donor advised fund into our CRM? Do I, as a person, need to answer that question? Absolutely not.
Right.
The robot can answer that question for you faster and better.
Right.
And there are lots of places in our lives where we go out of our way to avoid human contact on some things. Like, we don't want a gas station attendant anymore. We want to pump our gas and get going. Right? Unless we have to, we don't want to have to deal with a person to check our bags at the airport.
Right.
We just want to have it done. Very few people use the sky cap anymore. Right? So these are
still existed.
So there are all these types of instances where we recognize humans aren't the best in those circumstances. And then there's lots of instances where we want a human there if we have an extra question or we need a little bit of help. I think phone companies are a great example of that. Like, I'm on T-Mobile, and if I have a problem with my phone, I want to be able to go into a T-Mobile store. But I don't go there to buy a phone. Like, I just bought a Pixel 9 and I just bought it online. I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need a demo. I don't need a sales pitch. I just bought it. Right.
Well, I think so much of fundraising is about relationship building. And what we're talking about right now is how I use AI most is task management.
Yes.
Is it possible for AI to also help us with relationships?
I think to a certain extent it is. I would say that it's very good to use it for things like task management, right? I was sharing the example of being able to build an ICS file to upload to Google Calendar a few minutes ago. You can easily do that for board meetings, for example, and then you're not sending your board members a list of dates to hold on their calendar. You can send them calendar invites for all of them in one fell swoop. And that's just a pain.
So I want you to actually break that down for like the listener that doesn't know anything about technology. You just said ICS.
Yes.
So you had a list of like 14 dates of your kid's schedule that you needed on your calendar. And you were able to ask AI to create a file. I don't even need to know what the ICS means. And that then populated your calendar for you, so you didn't have to spend the time populating
So I got the email. It had all of these dates for the den meetings. And I was like, am I going to sit and put each one of these into my calendar? I just copy pasted it into Claude and I said, create an ICS file for this. I didn't have to do anything. ICS is the calendar file that Google Calendar and iCal. So iCal can use that same format. But so I just said, just create an ICS file of all these dates and this time and whatever. And it created the file. And then I downloaded the file from Claude, uploaded it to Google, and I was done. It was a minute.
That's amazing.
I've had it create. So Nathan Chappelle and I did a survey of 1,006 donors on donors to nonprofits in the last 12 months. Completed the survey in August. We produced a 80 page report on donor perceptions of nonprofits using AI. First of its kind. Directly from the words from the mouths of donors, and it's coming out October 1st during the Fundraising AI Summit. So if people haven't signed up for that, they should. But point being, we built the report based on that, and then I uploaded the report to Claude, and I said I want a landing page for this, and it built the landing page with graphs, with text, put all of that together, and I just said that simply. Like, there's no complex prompt engineering. It was just build a website, write this file. And those are places where I think it's just super easy, super low risk to do some of those things. When it comes to relationship management, that's where I get a little bit more nervous, Samantha, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think there are things that I need to remember about you, and can AI help surface that at the right time?
Right.
Maybe. But when it comes to taking over any part of the relationship building, I don't want to talk to an avatar.
Right. Then we're
Samantha
removing the human element.
I want to talk to Samantha.
Right.
Like, that's the point. And no matter how good AI gets at, and it's not there yet in terms of compute time, no matter how good it gets at empathy and reaction time, it's still not the same as interacting with a human. And that's where I start to get nervous about what for-profit markets will do. We have AI romantic relationships now, and I'm worried about what that means for society.
Yeah.
More than I'm worried about what happens in the fundraising space.
Well, and what's interesting too is that the pieces you're naming as potential for AI, I look at and go, wow, what that actually does is open up my bandwidth.
That's exactly right.
To be in relationship, because I think we get peanut butter donors because we're doing spray and pray.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of that for our fearless fundraisers is specifically a result of lack of time. So if AI can become a tool to make time for me as a fundraiser to focus on the thing I'm good at, the thing I want to do at, and the human connection that we all know is what drives that mission work, that becomes me using the tool for good,
right?
Versus it supplanting something that really is going to be offensive or not engaging to donors.
Exactly. I mean, you all are in the event space and you are so good at it. And there are all kinds of things that you do in advance to prepare for a great event. And there are some of those ticky-tacky things that AI can handle that a human does not need to handle. right? Like if we're going to send a follow-up mail piece or email, we've got a lot of that pre-loaded, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not starting it the day after.
Right.
Even though it's coming out the day after. Well, ideally, right? Ideally, you have some of the bones of those pieces and the plan for that put together. Now, I think we have the opportunity to say, like, we know that Kristin showed up at the event, and we can pull that into AI and then have a draft of something ready to go immediately after the event. Even, something, the example that you gave, Samantha, on the panel, like we can do routing of delivery of auction items. Like no human needs to sit down with a literal map and figure that out.
Correct.
So these are great examples of where it does, to your point, really free us up to do more of the relationship building, because I'm not wasting minutes or hours or days doing some of the stuff that just does not need to be done by human.
Pieces of my soul,
Yes.
right? Like there's a fatigue that happens with those that makes us unable to be present sometimes.
Before you jump ahead, I have one follow-up question to that, which is just for a novice nonprofit who has never approached AI in their awareness of like, I'm going to use this tool intentionally. Do you have a recommendation of the tool that would be?
I mean, I don't. I think a lot of people are looking at all the different tools and feeling a lot of overwhelm. Some of them are free, some of them are cheap. Pick the one that suits you best, maybe one that already works within your system. And what I would say is, when you're exploring, explore with very low risk, non-donor facing options.
Right.
Things like, can I load up our employee manual into into ChatGPT, for example, or into Gemini, and ask it questions so that the staff can figure out like how many vacation days they have.
Right.
Like those are super low risk. You're not creating any problems with PII, personal identifiable information. You're not, putting anything out there that's community facing. Really, really straightforward. The other thing that I would experiment with, things like in Microsoft Copilot, which is probably in some tools that people are using, or in Gemini. If you have a plan to do something, maybe it's like an event checklist or something like that, or just load it up and ask, what are some other things that we could do? What are some surprise and delight things? It helps you, and maybe you don't take any of those suggestions, but maybe that spurs some additional thought. Exactly.
Cherian, I could listen to you all day because you do this really great job of bringing these big theoretical ideas into really practical places and demystifying them. So thank you so much for being with us today on the Raise Nation
pleasure.
Broadcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Unleash the power of events to energize your donors and amplify your mission. Join us at the Elevate Conference in 2025, where you'll learn the essential tools for planning a successful fundraising event. Book your tickets now for March 12th and 13th. This dynamic hybrid conference, hosted at Avenue in Portland, Oregon, and streamed live for our virtual audience, will equip you with practical tools, demos, and templates that you can put to work immediately. Don't miss out. Secure your spot today at Elevate 2025. Visit elevatenonprofit.com to register now. Elevate Conference 2025 is brought to you by Swaim Strategies and the AV Department, powered by elevatenonprofit.com.
Next up, Kristin had an opportunity to sit down with Julia Campbell of J. Campbell Social Marketing and Josh Hirsch of Soukup Strategic Solutions to talk about social media and marketing for your mission.
Hello and welcome. We've got Julia Campbell and Josh Hirsch.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us. You're here speaking at the Raise Conference about social media and communication strategies that can achieve long-term goals for organizations.
Yep.
So Josh, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what that can look like for our nonprofit friends.
So we know that we have to focus on the here and now, but at the same time, like we have to build for the future. So when we're talking about social media, it's not just a set it and forget it. We need to be very engaging with our audience, need to develop a content strategy based upon data. And that's like where my nerdiness really comes into play. We might think that we want to talk about purple puppies in Peru, but if that content isn't performing well with our clients or our constituents, then we need to reassess. And for me, digging in from both a macro perspective when we're looking at those insights and trends over time, because once again, I'm pulling those KPIs on a daily basis, not only looking at it from like, okay, what are we looking, month over month, but I'm digging into the post, seeing does a Monday motivation post move well, and what is it about that type of content is really resonating with our audience. So because of that, we have to be dynamic in our thought process. We've really have gone past the stage, and it's unfortunate, organic reach doesn't really exist anymore on social. So if you are not planning even like $100 a month as far as like a social budget, and that can be either just doing direct social ads or doing some sort of boosting of posts, we have to get our content out there. We also know at the same time, and this is something we talk about all the time, we don't own the social media channels.
Yes.
Right? We are almost leasing a space from Mark or from Elon. If we're on that channel, and realize that at any time this could go away. So how is this just another part of our overall content strategy to once again drive them back to our website? Because that's where we can get a conversion. That's where we can get people to sign up for our program, make a donation, become a volunteer. And if we aren't factoring that in, knowing that it could go away at any moment, then we're going to be handcuffed when it happens.
Yep. So you're introducing a couple of concepts that I think might be new for people. We can't set it and forget it.
Yes.
Because a lot of people would just really like to, because this is one of the 5 million hats they're wearing.
Right.
Yes. And 2, paying some money to these spaces to occupy that space.
Yeah.
And I think those are new concepts for people that I really want them to start to at least put them into their wheelhouse. Julia, let's talk about social media and its potential to impact donor relationships.
Yes. Well, it has a huge impact, because if you think of donors like you think of consumers, consumer behavior, people are people. We are on our phones, we're on social media.
Right.
So whether or not we love it or we hate it or we're on it personally, we do need to understand that this is where people are spending their time. The other thing that's important to understand is that your audience, your constituents, they might be on different channels than like my audience and my constituents. So you need to really be strategic and thoughtful and intentional about where you're spending your time on these channels. You can say, people call me all the time and they say, should I be on TikTok? And I say, well, I don't know. I don't know. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to reach Gen Z? Are you trying to reach millennials? Do you have video content? Are you able to create really short, pithy, fun videos? And if not, then maybe LinkedIn is a little bit of a better place for you, a better match for you. So for me, I think when you're talking about using social media for building donor relationships, you have to think about your goals. You have to think about your strengths, your bandwidth, your capacity, and what you can create, and the channels where your donors actually are spending time.
Yeah. And stories are a big part of that.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people think a story is a story is a story, just as a channel is a channel is a channel.
Yeah.
What does that intersection look like for folks?
Well, if we look at social media, and we're talking about this today in our session, if you look at the reasons why people are on social media, the number one reason is to connect with friends and family. Number one. Maybe on TikTok, it's a little bit different. Some channels are different. But the number one reason across the board is connecting with friends and family, connecting with people, human connection.
Yeah.
So the more that we can fit into that mold, and the more we can create social media content that looks like what people want to see. Yeah. Stories around people. The thing with storytelling that I think a lot of organizations get wrong on social is they feel like, oh, it has to be a client. It doesn't. It can be the director of development. It can be the executive director. It can be a volunteer. It can be an intern. It can be a donor.
Yeah.
You can tell all of these sort of wide variety of stories that create and humanize your organization. So it's absolutely vital to be sharing stories on social media.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there to show the full picture of your organization.
Yeah.
Yes.
We know that, let's say you're an after-school arts program and you've got these great kids that are coming in for 2 hours after school, and we're providing with these great creative outlets. But what about those, as you said, volunteers? Those are the stories we need to see. People want to see that behind the scenes, and showing that through storytelling on social is such a great channel. But at the same time, too, how are we incorporating that? And I'm going back to that omni-channel approach is we want people, because someone may never come to your TikTok profile, but you've got great content there.
Yeah.
But we know that we're still telling that story on another channel. But at the same time, too, it's the Tim Curry example. What's Tim Curry going to be?
Oh, right. The Tim Curry. That's the slide for today.
Yes.
I have a slide where I have a bunch of like a melange of Tim Curry various roles. And the point is, every platform is different. Like every Tim Curry is different in every movie, every platform and every channel is different. And how you use it and how you sort of leverage it for your organization is going to be different. And you don't need to be on every platform. I think that's another very important
That's
point.
key.
I think for
You do not
folks,
need to be everywhere.
You can dilute everything and try and do all of them and do them all poorly, or you can pick a couple that are actually in your skill and
That's what
wheelhouse.
people are doing now, and that's really working well. Some organizations are just on Instagram. Some organizations are just on LinkedIn, and that's fine. It all depends on, like, we said before, where is your audience? What are you trying to achieve? And which channel can best help you reach those goals?
Yeah. Josh, I think sometimes bringing this down from sort of more nebulous conversation, we don't think it's nebulous, but for some folks, they're like, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. What is this? Do you have any specific example of organizations that are doing this really well that people can go out and take a look at and be like, oh, how do we be like X?
Okay, so the national parks.
Oh, National Parks.
National Parks does an amazing job on Instagram.
Okay.
They just did the waterfalls.
I was just about to say the waterfalls. So don't go chasing waterfalls.
Excellent.
Them and the TSA, believe it or not, are two amazing profiles
These
on
are
social.
counterintuitive, folks.
Right, but
These
you
are
would,
counterintuitive.
but they do storytelling.
does a great job as well.
It's storytelling in a non-traditional sense that you wouldn't think that, okay, what does the TSA have to say? But really engaging content that teaches you a point, but at the same time brings you in, and they do it really well on Instagram. So it's thinking outside of the box, not like we need to get donors, so let's tell the impact. Like, no, like let's bring them in and focus on a different perspective from it.
Exactly. The other thing is, I think like Human Rights Campaign does a fabulous job on social media. Planned Parenthood, these are just organizations I personally follow. Yeah. But you don't have to have consistently entertaining and fun and light content to make an impact. Right. So you can have a serious topic that you're talking about. And as long as you are educating people, sharing information that they care about, that they want to know, updates, news alerts, things like that, contextualizing things that are in the news and headlines, that's what really makes a powerful social media account. So I love the national parks. Yes. I love, the ASPCA. There's, they share a lot of fun, lighthearted content. Yeah. But there are some other organizations that I follow to get news alerts and to figure out what's going on. So I follow them. They're like my go-to. Yeah. So if we think about it that way, it doesn't have to be like TikTok dances. Like we don't have to be doing Brat Summer and like all, although it's fun, but you don't have to
demure?
Oh, if I hear the word demure one more time, I will lose my mind.
That was such a thing this summer.
Yeah, but but you don't have to be following those trends. You really can be true to your mission and your brand voice. Just understanding what your audience wants to see from you that you can uniquely give them that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. However, I will say, if you are able to latch onto a trend, but not just say, okay, here's the trend, we're going to do it, but have a sensible way that you're taking that trend and
link it to your mission.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's, sort of the mission storytelling that we're talking about. Yes. But I think what I'm also hearing here that I think could be really helpful for folks is changing up. I mean, you're a range of emotions as an organization. You're tapping people with a range of entry points to your organization. So going all levity, that's not the way to go, but also all going doom and gloom. And if without us, the world's going to end. Like thinking about how you're communicating to donors in the same way you do in direct mail. You're reaching across the space to people who may not know you yet too. So thinking about what that can look like.
100%.
What's a strategy for folks when they're thinking about that in terms of their tone?
Well, we teach a lot about content and content strategy, and content can be anything from your email to your blog post to your website to your social media. So if you're thinking about content, thinking about it very holistically, what are like the 10 things that you can talk about that you want to be known for? Yeah. And then you want to make sure you have some evergreen content that is sort of will never go stale, that's always going to be relevant. And then you want to also make sure that you have some, I call it rapid response content, where even if you're a library, even if you're a school, even if you are a museum, whatever your mission is, you have to be able to respond to things that are going on in your community or things that are going on in the news. Yep. So as long as you have that mix, and it does take a while to kind of get that recipe correct.
Yeah. Now for me,
you did that at Susan G. Komen.
Yeah, exactly. But bringing in AI is really, I think, where we're able to leverage the next step. is taking, once again, the data perspectives that we have, looking at what's performing well, and being the nerd that I am, like I'll build out a custom GPT that specializes specifically in social content, and then analyzing the data to say, okay, here's what's performing well. Help me develop a content calendar and help me draft. And that's the key thing, is that it's just a draft. It's a starting point, but it's somewhere to do more with less. And we know that we're all trying to juggle 10 projects at once. If we have a tool that can help us be more effective, then we need to take advantage of that.
Yep.
Again, I just want to pull this thread through for folks. What you all are hitting on is you can't set and forget it. And there's sort of a bigger picture. This is what we're thinking, but also the responsiveness that's happening in the moment that disrupts some of that or infuses some of that strategy, if you will. What do folks do with the many hats they wear and figuring out what that looks like on a day-to-day? What should be their primary, like if I have one thing I can do today, what is that?
If I had one thing to do today, I would say, excuse me, it's about listening and engaging. It's not just going out there and saying, we're going to talk about the purple ponies today in Peru, but we're going to actively look at how our constituents are responding to our content, and how can I create engaging content that, like, posting questions that's going to elicit reactions that based upon what our focus of our organization is, or our initial, target at that moment. So putting out content that we determine that we want to drive action, but at the same time too, that we believe that will elicit emotions by listening, not just talking into an echo chamber, but seeing what others are resonating. And at the same time too, what are others within our niche talking about? And how can we engage with those brands too, from a brand perspective?
I think the problem is that we were sold a bill of goods back when Facebook came out with pages, the donate button. We were told, oh, this is going to replace our website. This is going to replace our email.
That's right.
We saw, before everyone and, their brother had a Facebook page, we really could see some traction. And then there were algorithm changes, and we realized we really don't control this medium.
Right.
I think if you have a million hats, I would focus on one channel and just go very deep, because what happens is you spread yourself too thin. You are posting and sort of spraying and praying and throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. But if you just, I work with, like, the Boston Foundation is a good example. They decided we're going to just double down on LinkedIn. Our executive director is going to post, and we're going to post from our company page, and we're going to sort of walk before we can run, and then fly. So we are just trying to build up their LinkedIn presence very strategically, using all the features, because there's so many features. LinkedIn Live, we're using LinkedIn Events, we're using the premium features. So for me, I think if you are a bootstrapping nonprofit, you wear a million hats, really doubling down on one or two channels and not trying to be everywhere all at once, because it's really challenging. People have social media departments of 20 people, like at major brands.
You're adding it to what you're doing. At my podcast, The Fundraising Elevator, we believe we all go up when we work together. So I'm wondering, in our last couple minutes, if each of you have just that one tip, if you were reaching across the space to our fearless fundraisers, that you would offer them. What's that one tip?
I think Julia made a great point. It's understanding the channel and its capacity, knowing the right way to speak on that channel, from do we use hashtags? Do we not? Do we take advantage of live capabilities with that? What are those feature-rich tools within that specific platform itself? I just learned recently, if you upload a PDF to LinkedIn, it creates a really cool slideshow. So you're able to have this interactive content, but showing long form content in a shorter form way. It's understanding things like that, and not always just posting an image and copy. What are the different types of content that's going to allow me to create that engagement for our audience?
Fantastic.
For me, I think my one tip is to explain to fundraisers that their work really does matter. People want to hear from them. They're not annoying their donors. In fact, they're probably not communicating nearly enough.
Right.
And I would just say, you have a message that matters. Think about what you want to be known for. Think about what you want people to feel when they see your content, and go from your gut. Trust your gut and trust your instincts.
Awesome. Check out Julia's book, Storytelling in a Digital Age. Thank you both so much for being here today on the Raise Nation podcast.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks again.
We had the honor of talking to several frontline fundraisers and are excited to bring you this conversation with Derria Ford of the Martha O'Brien Center about storytelling for her mission. Hello, and I am so excited to welcome Derria Ford of the Martha O'Brien Center here at Raise Nation Broadcast. Derria was on a panel earlier today talking about ethical storytelling, which is so much more than a buzz phrase. We're super, super interested in ethical storytelling. We work in events, and at the basis of that is the idea of story. But who tells their story and how they tell their story are really, really critical. Let's start with the hardest hurdle first. Often we hear organizations say they shy away from storytelling because they want to stay out of any form of exploitation. Yeah. How important is storytelling to a nonprofit, and what would you say to those folks who are super fearful about it?
Yeah, I think history tells us that over time, stories really connect our donors to our missions. Yep. And so in my thoughts, storytelling doesn't go away. You got to lean into it, but you just want to make sure you're doing it with ethics and morals and making sure that you're uplifting the right person in the story. So I tell people lean in, don't lean away.
So we often hear folks that are trying to figure out how to approach storytelling and are using kind of the buzz phrase of ethical storytelling, but don't necessarily know how that applies. I'm curious, what is your experience from the client perspective of what journey do they go through? And when they share their story, like what benefits or risks are there to them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I use an example all the time of when I worked for legal services. And there was a client that was very eager that was a survivor of domestic violence. And she was eager at that point in time. She wanted to tell the story. She wanted to be an advocate. But as a fundraiser, it's my job to say, you know, this story could live on. Mm-hmm. You know, at this point in your life, you will move past it, and just make sure that she was fully informed of all of the things that could happen. This could be on the internet. This could go on the radio.
Yes,
you could be on television. Just making sure that her and I fully walk through where this story could end up, and have an idea before I ask her what I was going to do with it. Yeah.
I want to follow up on that a little bit. When you're going into that discussion, I think often we want the story to be X, right? And when we get into the process, when we empower the storyteller, sometimes it's Y.
Yeah.
You know, the story and who they are and what they see is different from how we see it. What does that look like in your practice for you in those moments?
I think I'm going through this right now. I'm prepping for an event. And I think our CEO had one vision, but once we got the story, there's still a beautiful story. It is where it is. She is where she is. She's still moving forward. And I think we have to remind donors that success looks different.
Yeah.
And that stories are a journey, especially in nonprofit spaces. People are moving through a journey. And my organization is an anti-poverty organization, and poverty doesn't end in one day.
Right. Yeah.
And so we have to be sensitive of how we talk to people about those stories, because success looks different. If I went from homelessness to stable housing, that's success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's an environment too, where when we're talking to clients about their story, that sometimes something that feels mundane to them because they are in it or they have just gotten through it is is heroic to folks. And I think sometimes we overlook the like everyday heroes in just being able to move the needle and progress forward. When you are working with a client, we believe strongly in the work having radical regular consent, meaning like enthusiastic every time we're going to share your story. You just mentioned that stories can show up in any number of places. How do you recommend a nonprofit approach that sort of consent in helping a client to share their story and understand where it might appear, when they can use the story, all the sort of like ways that the story could be out there in the world?
Yeah, I think one thing is that you got to repeat it multiple times. And a lot of times we don't want to do that because it's more work on our behalf. And we're trying to get the newsletter, the whatever it is done, and the client could change their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what, as a profession, deters us from leaning in on informed consent, because
Interesting.
it's more work.
Yeah.
It is more work. If you do it well, There is no question about it. It is more. But I think it's important because you want to have that conversation. You want to sit down and say, hey, I just want to make sure you understood. At the second time you sit down with them, I just want to make sure you understood that we're doing this story. We're going to share this story. It's going to be a part of our event. You're going to stand up in front of people. It's going to be a lot of people there. And you can choose right now not to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make sure this is okay with you.
I think the important piece also comes in, we get that up front. We've asked several times. They're clear, we're clear, great. We work on the story together. I think working on the story together is new for some people.
Absolutely.
Some people tell other people's stories, right? But then afterward, what does that look like for you in your work?
Yeah.
How does that share with the storyteller look like, and what does that process look like?
Yeah. The example now, I'm working through an event, and she went at first draft, and that's perfect. I want you to write it. I don't want to write it. And as we're talking through it and she's asking for feedback, I'm like, is that what you think? It's kind of cold, but I want your words, not mine.
Right.
Yeah.
What was this story through your lens? And then also I'll say, she'll say, I need help. Help me. Because they do that. I will help. And I'll say, but is that your thought or is it mine? You know? And so I do that kind of coaching when we're sitting down one-on-one, talking to each other, just to make sure I'm not putting my thoughts into her mind, or that our clients are thinking that I want them to say something. Sometimes they'll write the story and say what they think you want them to say.
Right.
No, is this really what happened?
Yeah.
And at the conclusion of it, this is what we have. If it's a video, a story, written story, sit down together. Does this represent your story?
It's an important question because we have hundreds of emotions that we feel, but the emotion that impacts people the most, the single emotion that like changes hearts and minds, is authenticity. And so if we're not authentically telling our clients' stories, we're missing that opportunity to make a real connection, real emotional connection. I want to hear about your event. When is it?
It is next Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, it's around the corner.
It's a breakfast.
You're very calm.
You're very calm.
Am I?
Yes.
Are you excited?
My staff wouldn't say that. No, I am excited because my organization's doing some new work. And it's a good opportunity for us to share with our donors why we've expanded our work and why we're showing up for the community in the way that we are. So I'm very excited about it.
That's
I'm
a
excited
great
to
way
hear
to
about
go into it. I want to ask you, I think how folks tell their stories is often where the exploitation happens. I think when we hear from organizations who are like, we can't tell stories, we don't want to exploit our people, it's because they've seen it done poorly
Right,
a lot, or maybe they in fact have really done it poorly.
Yeah.
And it's not actually you empowering someone to tell their story that's exploitative. Exploitative.
Yeah.
The exploitation happens when you tell someone's story for them, when you don't get their consent. Are there other aspects to how you do this work that you think help that not happen for the folks you're talking with?
I think so. So one of the things that I started at my previous organization was really working on the culture at our organization and saying, these are the terms that we use when we speak about our clients, and making a glossary so that anybody that comes into the staff change. So anybody that comes,
That never happens.
you know what I mean? Anybody that comes, it stays a part of the culture.
Yeah.
Explaining to our staff, this is what our department does. This is how we approach this. It makes it culture. It's just not like I'm trying to be ethical. I'm one person by myself. No, I'm being accountable.
Yep.
I'm being accountable to you. I'm being accountable to our clients. And this is what I promise. And this is how we should talk about our work. So I talked about in the session early frameworks. And really looking at how you're framing your stories. And I think it helps when you're talking about the organization as a whole and when you're talking to the client.
Yep.
Because then you can stop and say, hey, wait a minute. Let's you don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. You could say that in a different way where it doesn't exploit and people still understand exactly what you meant. And us just being aware as professionals when to do that is important. So I think it's culture. And one of the questions I got earlier after the session was, I want my agency to do it now.
Right.
But I think we have to understand, for those of us that are very passionate, that it's a process.
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
And so we're going to strive to do it better, but it's changing little pieces at a time until you can get there. So looking at your consent form, how do you prep clients for an event? Talking to your leadership to make sure they understand that you don't have to make people cry to make it a good story. I mean,
that's a big
going, you know, it's little pieces at a time that get you there.
Well, even just creating awareness gives
Yeah.
you actually a target to hit. I think without that, people well-intentioned, don't have something they're moving towards. So even just bringing it into an awareness field allows somebody to see, like, I don't know how to get there, but I understand that's our intention.
Yeah.
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 Well, on our podcast, The Fundraising Elevator, we believe we're all headed up when we work together. So what one tool, tip, recommendation, piece of advice would you give to help someone head in the direction of creating a storytelling culture?
An ethical storytelling culture.
I would say my one piece of advice is whatever you do, whatever direction you go, think about the story, the conversations with leadership as if it was your own story. Go in your mind, find that little piece of pain that you may not want to share with everybody, and treat everybody's story when you're teaching like that. You'll change how you approach it every single time. I believe that.
That's beautiful advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a response to that because I think that's a showstopper. I think that's really a showstopper. Derria, I am so grateful you're in the world doing the work that you do.
Thank
I am
you.
so
Thank you.
thankful you came by the Raise Nation broadcast to hang out with us for a few minutes. I hope that event is just kick-ass.
Thank you.
Have an incredible event. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the Fundraising Elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristin for your program and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at elevatenonprofit.com. You can also find the link in the show notes.
Finally, Kristin had a chance to talk auctions and consignment with Kevin Spykerman of Auction Packages.
Welcome. We're here with Kevin Spykerman with Auction Packages. Welcome to the studio, Kevin.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Here at the Raise Conference, you're here talking about consignment, and
Yes.
I am in the world of events,
Yep.
and consignment has started to look the same, but also different.
Yes.
During COVID, we experienced clients who were trying to figure out how to supplement and or replace revenue. And we have folks doing consignment auctions online apart from their event. It's turned into a whole different world. So I want to level set for folks.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what a consignment auction package even is for folks who have never thought about it or don't know about it.
Yes. Well, the analogy I like to use is using consignment is like using a tool, right? Tools, a hammer can build a house or can put a hole in the drywall, right?
Yeah.
Consignment can be a really good tool or can put a hole in the drywall, right? So I think being able to use it properly is really what you want to look for.
Right.
So what consignment is basically using a package that you pay for if the item sells once the event is over. I would be very leery if you're looking at consignment, if there's a 50-50 split or a profit share, I'd be very leery of that. So make sure that whatever you use has a set cost. So, if my donors are extremely generous and they give me $10,000 for this trip, I'm going to have to pay the company $1,000 or whatever it is. So it's basically paying for something that you have to pay for.
Right.
And then after the event's over, that's when you actually pay for it. So it's no risk. What we consignment is the word that's used, but no risk is kind of the buzzword that people use. It's no risk.
Yeah, which I think to me, makes it in many ways a no-brainer to consider, especially if you've maybe put together an auction and you have what you've deemed a hole. Like, we don't have any trips or we don't have any X, that they could be like, I think our crowd has done really well in the past with a trip to Mexico. We don't have anybody that's donated a trip to Mexico. I can look to my consignment partner at Auction Packages and say, great, we need a trip to Mexico. What can that look like?
Yes. Yeah, it's a no-brainer, but it's also, you got to be very strategic, right? Like working with your event planner, working with your auctioneer, deciding ahead of time, what do we have donated? Because I don't want to go get a Mexico package from Auction Packages, and we also have a Mexico package donated, right? So we don't want to compete against that. Right. And less is more. When it comes to consignment, less is more. If you have an auction that's just consignment, you did it wrong. Right. It needs to be 1 or 2 or 3 trips that kind of supplement what your board has gone out and gotten. So we don't want to be a crutch for your board. So it's like, oh, we just go get the consignment. Like, no, your board needs to show up, get the donations, and then you plug in a consignment package.
And I think what you're tapping into is really the strategic use of the tools we have, right? Like, when we look at any of the things we do at our fundraising events, there are a lot of levers we can pull. We should not pull all of them.
Correct.
And how do we make a better experience for our donors and our guests? How do you partner with nonprofits in those moments when they call you perhaps frantic or a board member and they're like, oh my gosh, this is what we're thinking. What does your process look like for them?
Yeah, so it's really coaching and really talking about their event, right? Okay, you're super excited. I love that. You're going to use some items, but tell me what you have donated. Tell me what you guys are trying to raise. How much money do you want to make, right? Is this about just giving people a great experience? I mean, it's obviously about raising money, right? But, some people are happy making $500 on a trip. Some people are livid.
Right.
Some people are excited that they made 10 grand. Some people don't care, right? It's about giving the donors an experience. So it's really helping us understand what their end goal is and then plugging in the right package for that.
Well, and I think too, sort of to pull the curtain back a little bit more for folks on auctions, when you're working with a consignment company on, say, let's keep going with the trip to Mexico. Let's say I have a purchase price, I'm going to pay you for it. I decide then what my threshold for fundraising on that item is. And then I should be working with my auctioneer to let them know what's called a reserve, what the reserve on that package is, so that they aren't minimizing our potential on it, but also aren't cutting us off at the knees and making it that we have to pay something out we hadn't anticipated.
Exactly. Yeah. So starting bids are super important when it comes to consignment. 20% over your cost is kind of always the industry standard. But, talking to a few auctioneers here at the Raise conference, they say 30%.
Great.
Or $500 or $1,000 over. So 20% is the minimum. But again, it really comes down to, like, what are we comfortable if worst case scenario, we actually sell this? Are we okay making 500 or 20% or 30%? So
can you talk a little bit, this is another curtain moment, I'm sure the auctioneers are going to hate me on this, but multiples. So I think the other interesting piece about consignment is if we have a donor that gives us their house in Mexico, they've given us once. Maybe if they're super generous, they're like, yeah, that went really high, sell us another week. But with consignment, you have an opportunity to seize on momentum in an auction in a way that a lot of other items don't have. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to numbers, right? I mean, if I have 500 people in the room and I've got 10 live auction items, that means 490 people are going to walk out of the room not winning something, potentially. Right? So how do we let more people get involved with the auction? And you can't sell the Smith's vacation home, 3, 4, 5 times without getting their approval.
Right.
And even then they'll be like, I'm not sure, right? And you put them on the spot and then it's an awkward moment. So with the consignment packages, you can typically sell them as many times as you'd like. Because we have unlimited inventory. We work with hotel providers directly. So that's a great way. At the end of the auction, we've had one package sold 46 times at the very end.
My God.
It was a Mexico trip. Staying on the Mexico theme. I want to say it was a $995 cost. They got it up to $2,500. Auctioneer stopped the bidding and 46 people in the room raised their hand. And it was the last item of the auction. Right. So they knew, hey, this was it. Like if we don't
We're gonna go
buy now.
Right.
But if you hadn't had that opportunity, those 45 people or 46 people wouldn't have had that opportunity because only one person would walk away with it.
And what's interesting about it too is it allows you to capitalize on momentum that happens at an event that maybe you didn't anticipate, right? Like the strategy there, they've teed it up, they've made it the last item, making it a potential multi-sale, we call that. And their momentum was such that they were able to probably sell more in that moment than they ever anticipated to.
Exactly.
Which is really fantastic. What's selling right now? What are the best things happening on consignment? We see trends all the time. For a long time, it was like, we want these big over-the-top luxury experiences. And then people were like, wow, that doesn't feel great. That doesn't look great. What is that? So what does the landscape of trends in consignment look like?
International has definitely come back. Okay. So I'd say of our packages, it's about 50-50 in terms of what we're selling. 50% are international, 50% are domestic. International, Portugal. So Portugal, of all places, we have a 6-person trip. So normally 3 couples go in on it together, or 2 families, or one family bringing all the kids. But it's a private residence in Portugal, and that has just been, we can't keep it on the shelf.
Fantastic.
So that one does well. And then as far as domestic, we have a family glamping package. So Grand Canyon glamping for the family, under the stars. That's the go-to. So we added a Bryce Canyon glamping. So the people who used that last year, it's like, that did really well. What's new? Well, we have something else that's a little bit different. So glamping, family stuff, and then international private homes in Portugal.
That's amazing. I want to go on both now. I love that.
But it really comes down to whatever your event is.
Yeah.
We just added an F1 Miami package, right? So we got F1, we've got US Open tennis, US Open golf. We've got something for every single event.
Yeah, and I think too, not only the event, but mission alignment becomes a thing that a lot of people are looking forward to. So having a big selection allows them to think about, maybe think a little bit outside the box about what that looks like in consignment too.
Or maybe even customizing something. A charity may say, hey, we really want this location. You don't have it. Can you go get it? We'll look into it. And if we can, we'll absolutely put it together for them.
That's fantastic. That's a great thing for folks to remember, that you can be a partner to them and helping execute
build
some
something
of
off the shelf.
Love that.
Yeah.
On our podcast, The Fundraising Elevator, we believe that when we work together, we all head up. What's a tip or a piece of sage advice that you would offer some of our fearless fundraisers as they're heading into their event and thinking about their auctions?
I would say, especially when it comes to consignment, don't shop with your pocketbook. Because I want to go to name the city, right? I really want to go to Chicago and do this experience. Well, what do your donors want to do? What does your board want to do? Ben Farrell this morning was in a session. He was talking about, ask your board, where do you want to travel this next year? So I think as you're thinking about your auction and your event, and maybe adding a consignment package, think about what your audience and those high spenders, send them an email. Hey, here's 5 locations. Of these, which one would you choose? Or option D, none of the above. So go ahead and pull the people, so I think having a litmus test of where they want to go. So you're not just trying to I think I picked the best one. So that would be my suggestion, is go ahead and talk to your top donors and see where they want to go and see if you can match something up.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Kevin with Auction Packages, thanks so much for being on Raise Nation Radio with us today.
Appreciate it.
We want to thank OneCause and Raise Nation Radio for the opportunity to partner at this year's Raise Conference. This production was in partnership with Utopia Experience, sponsored by DonorDock, with contributions from the Creative Shizzle and Confessions podcast.
If you're looking for a great conference to expand your event fundraising knowledge, be sure to join us at the Elevate Conference on March 12th and 13th of 2025. This 2-day hybrid conference is school for your fundraising event. Register today at elevatenonprofit.com. Early bird tickets are available until November 8th.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV Department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Hey y'all, it's Kristin. Before we leave, I want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, follow, and subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, share it with a friend. Leave us a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thanks so much for being here and tuning in.
Thank you all for being a part of Elevate. Fundraising at events has been climbing and climbing and climbing, and we're seeing full rooms again, very exciting, and we're seeing money happen again.
We are stronger together, and Elevate is a powerful way for us to join forces for good.
When we co-founded Elevate, it was critical for us to take what we know and we get to experience in events and share it.
What's the next level of stewardship that we need to bring to our supporters, to our volunteers, even to our staff, to our colleagues, right? Because stewardship ultimately is caring for people.
For our team here at Avenue and the AV department, being a part of the Elevate conference is a cornerstone of our year in bringing together so many friends from our network in one space to learn from each other and to collaborate and bring what each individual group has learned to the table to keep all of our friends in the nonprofit sector as up to speed as possible on trends and best practices in the industry.
Little old streaming company in Portland has definitely branched out over the 3 years, and now we're still here in our own venue, which is great.
There's a great energy in this room, and it's not just in this room, it's all the folks that are joining us online. The speakers so far have been unbelievable. I could probably sit and listen to Sam Swain and Kristin Steele talk for hours, because everything that comes out of their mouths is just perfect nuggets for what we're all trying to achieve with our fundraising events.
I feel like every session so far has been so educational, so on topic, and really engaging and fun to be a part of.
There were best practices that were solid gold some years ago, but they're changing now, and especially around event fundraising.
During lunch today, my organization was featured, and we don't get the limelight too often, so I'm just really humbled to just, be in a great community of nonprofit workers. Gathering is a very important aspect of achieving community prosperity.
We at Kitchen Killer are super excited to bring in new, fresh food, great food, a food that's exciting for people to eat. When people eat more, they drink more. When they drink more, they spend more, and these organizations raise more money.
This was my first time coming, and I'm really glad I did. People seem really engaged. There's a lot of hooting and hollering and applause.
If you're in the industry and you're not here, you're doing yourself a disservice. I think it's important that you come every year, not only to connect and to gather, but again, to learn new things and to learn best practices. I firmly believe that this is the place to be for every single event planner, fundraising professional, those folks in the industry.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Event planners are discovering Avenue, the Pacific Northwest's new AV-forward event venue, intentionally designed with nonprofit fundraising events in mind. From the 93-foot video production wall to the highest quality sound and lighting, premier AV features are included in every venue rental. You'll find the space and audiovisual enhancements to create your unique and memorable event. Visit avenueportland.com to schedule your personal tour. Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.